Hey there, and welcome back. In this video, we're going to explore the Angular CLI or command line interface that will make your life as an Angular developer so much easier. Now, if you ever thought that setting up and managing an application from scratch sounds intimidating, well, don't worry. The Angular CLI simplifies everything with just a few commands. And it's basically designed to streamline the entire process, allowing you to focus only on writing code. The Angular CLI is your go-to tool for creating, managing, and deploying Angular applications. Whether you are setting up a brand new project, generating components, services, or maybe you're running some tests, the CLI has got you covered. First up, project setup. Like we did in the previous video, with just a single command, ng new. The CLI scaffolds a well organized directory structure for your application. It also sets up default configurations, so you don't have to worry about messy setup. Now, instead of manually creating components or services, the CLI can handle this for you. So commands like ng generate component or ng generate service ensure that everything is created consistently and follows the Angular best practices. One of my favorite features is the built-in development server. When we use the command ngserve, you can instantly view your application in the browser and automatically reloads when you make changes. So hitting the refresh button is basically an old news, and we don't need to do that anymore. When it comes to keeping your code clean and bug-free, the CLI also provides commands to run both unit tests and end-to-end tests. And this makes it super easy to test your application as you build. And when you are ready to share your project with the world, you can use the ng build command to compile your application into a production ready bundle with all the necessary optimizations. The CLI even helps with environment management. You can switch between configurations for development, production, testing, and more using environment files, making it easy to adapt to different scenarios. Now, let's quickly go over some of the most commonly used commands you'll be using regularly. First one is ng new, followed by your project name. And this creates a new Angular project like we saw in the previous video. Second would be ngserve, and this starts the local development server and watches for file changes, so you don't need to hit the refresh button all the time. Then you have ng generate component followed by the component name, and this generates a new component, and you'll be using this a lot. ng generate service and followed by the service name. This creates a new service. ng build builds your application for production. Or also we mentioned environment files. We can create different environment files, and we can specify that while using the ng build command and build our application based on some other configuration that we have, for example, for staging, development, and testing, and so on. ng add followed by the package name adds a new package and configures it. And basically this is used to install and configure third-party libraries or packages in your Angular project with a single command. It not only adds the package to your node modules, but also automatically sets up any necessary configurations, files, or dependencies specific to the package. We are not just covering the basics here. We'll also dive into advanced tips and uncommon features that you won't find in most other courses. One of those unique tools we'll be exploring today is the dry run option of the Angular CLI. The dry run option in the Angular CLI allows you to simulate running a command without making any changes to your files. It's like a preview mode that shows you what the command will do before you actually execute it. This is perfect for testing and ensuring that you're not making unwanted changes. Alright, now that you've got the basics of the CLI, let's talk about the project structure that Angular sets up for you when you create a new application. Understanding this will help you know exactly where to go when working on your project, which is very helpful. Back in Visual Studio Code, you have entire Angular application structure here. And let's open the source folder, and this is where most of the magic happens. Inside the source folder, you'll find several important files and subfolders, one of which is the application folder. This folder is the core of your application, and the entire application lives here. This is where all your components, services, and modules will go. Which brings me to the assets folder. So use this folder to store images, fonts, and other static files. Just for an example, let's create images folder, where basically we are going to store all of our image files. Next, let's take a look at Angular JSON, and this file contains the configuration for your Angular project. And you will not have the need to touch this file very often, but it's good to know it's there. Actually, we will edit this file a bit later to add our environment files. Package JSON, this is where all your project dependencies are listed. When you add a package with ng-add, it updates here. Now let's try and add our environment files. Let's go ahead and add a new folder in our source folder called environments. Now you need to create two files, environment.ts for development and environment.prod.ts for production in the source environments folder. Let's create our first file, environment.ts. Now let's create our second file for production. Let's call it environment.prod.ts. Alright, now we need to configure our environment files. But first, let's dive into how we work with objects in TypeScript, especially in the context of Angular. Objects are fundamental to working with data, and you'll often find yourself using them to store configuration settings or other types of structured information. Now let's create a simple object, and I'll show you an example that could resemble something you'd use in an Angular project. Now let's create our configuration. Let's do the code, create an object, and I will explain step by step of what's going on here. Here we are declaring a constant object named environment. So let's see what's happening. First, we are using the keyword export. This means we are making this constant available outside of this file. In Angular, we often work with modules and components, and export allows us to share this object with other parts of the application. Next, const means this is a constant. Once this environment object is defined, its reference can be changed. It's basically fixed. but we can still modify its properties if necessary. Then we define the object, and inside we have one property which is called production. This is a key value pair where production is the key and true is the value. We'll use this to indicate whether the application is running in production mode, which in this case is false because this is the development environment file. Next, we'll do the same for the environment production file, and the only difference here is instead of false, we are going to set the value to true. Now we need to tell Angular how to use these environment files when building for development or production. So next we'll open Angular JSON file. Look for the file replacement section under the build configurations and add the following configuration. Now let's add file replacements section and add replace field and with field. So basically replace points to the development file and with indicates what file should be used instead during production builds. As you can see, for replace we use the development environment file, and now we are going to set the production environment file for with. Now here I did a mistake. I forgot to type the curly brackets to indicate an object, and let's fix that. Actually, let's do this way to make it more clear. Now, I know this might look a bit overwhelming right now, seeing all these configurations in the Angular JSON file and everything that we did, but don't worry, it's not something you'll need to tweak often, especially in everyday development. The Angular CLI handles most of this automatically for you. However, it's good to be familiar with how these settings work because they come in handy in the real world development, particularly when you are managing multiple environments like development, staging, and production. Understanding this will give you more control and flexibility as you progress, making you a more experienced and confident developer. So to sum up, the Angular CLI is an essential tool for anyone working with Angular. It simplifies project setup, code generation, testing, building, and deployment. So as we continue, mastering the CLI will save you a lots of time and make your development process much smoother. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.